Sean "Diddy" Combs is living through the most defining chapter of his life. For decades, he was untouchable, one of the most powerful figures in hip-hop, a businessman who turned Bad Boy Records into an empire, and a celebrity who moved effortlessly through music, fashion, and nightlife. But today, everything has changed. His name is no longer just tied to platinum records and billion-dollar deals. It's now stamped into one of the biggest criminal cases involving a hip-hop mogul in recent memory. And in just days, a federal judge will decide his fate. Will Diddy serve no more than 14 months, as his legal team insists is fair? Or will he face a sentence closer to what prosecutors demand, a stretch long enough to keep him locked away for years? A trial that shook hip-hop. The drama really escalated on July 2nd when Diddy's federal trial ended. The world was bracing for a headline-grabbing verdict, and that's exactly what they got. He was acquitted of the heaviest charges, sex trafficking and racketeering, which would have carried devastating consequences if they stuck. The acquittals gave him a moment of relief, but that relief didn't last long. Because while he dodged those explosive accusations, he wasn't cleared completely. The jury still found him guilty of 2 counts under the Mann Act, transporting women across state lines to engage in prostitution. It's not as serious as trafficking, but it's still a felony, and it's still something the federal system takes very seriously. The maximum punishment? Up to 20 years in prison if the judge decides to stack the sentences consecutively. That's the nightmare scenario hanging over him right now. What prosecutors are demanding, federal prosecutors wasted no time laying out their position. To them, a short sentence would be a slap in the face to justice. They recommended a prison term between 51 and 63 months, more than 4 years. Their reasoning is straightforward. The crimes weren't isolated. They argue that multiple women were harmed, pressured, and manipulated. In their eyes, this wasn't a one-off mistake, but a pattern of behavior that lasted years. And prosecutors know the world is watching. They've made it clear that letting Diddy off easy would send the wrong message, that celebrities with power and money can sidestep accountability. What the defense wants instead. But Diddy's lawyers are pushing back hard. On September 22nd, they filed a 182-page sentencing memo that reads like both a biography and a plea for mercy. Their request? No more than 14 months behind bars. And here's why they believe it's fair. First, they highlight the time Diddy has already served, nearly 13 months at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. MDC is notorious for harsh conditions, overcrowding, violence, poor facilities, and extreme isolation. His team argues that surviving there for more than a year has already been punishment enough. Second, they emphasize rehabilitation. For the first time in decades, Diddy is sober. He's been attending substance abuse programs, mentoring fellow inmates, and proving, they say, that he's ready to turn his life around. The defense paints a picture of a humbled man who has taken accountability, who is working to change, and who no longer poses a danger to society. A lifetime of trauma and struggles. The sentencing memo doesn't just focus on the past year. It dives into Diddy's entire life story to explain how he ended up here. They start with the tragedy that struck when he was just 3 years old, the murder of his father. That loss left him with trauma that shaped his entire upbringing. Growing up without a father figure, he fought to make something of himself in the music industry. But his lawyers argue that pain never really left. Then came the years of success, which they claim were often clouded by addiction. Diddy relied on painkillers and alcohol, and the filing admits his behavior was erratic and unpredictable. They even describe past relationships as violent, blaming substance abuse for much of the conduct at the heart of this case. Now, with sobriety, his attorneys say he's a different man, a man who can finally break free from decades of destructive cycles. Family, responsibility, and redemption. Beyond his personal growth, his legal team is also leaning heavily on family. Diddy is the father of 7 children. His lawyers stress that these kids, ranging from teenagers to young adults, still rely on him emotionally and financially. And then there's his mother, Janice Combs. At over 80 years old, she's been a fixture in his public life, often by his side at award shows and red carpets. His lawyers say she is now elderly and in fragile health, and that keeping her son locked away only adds to her suffering. The letters included in the filing describe Diddy as a provider, a mentor, and a central figure in the family. The message is simple. If the goal of sentencing is rehabilitation, then Diddy is ready to leave prison and prove his transformation in the real world. The business fallout. But while the legal arguments rage on, outside the courtroom, Diddy's empire has already been crumbling. Over the past year, he's lost partnerships with major brands. Ciroc and De Leon Tequila, once tied closely to his image, have pulled back. His clothing ventures, music projects, and entertainment deals have stalled. Even his role in shaping culture, from launching artists to hosting legendary parties, has disappeared. The financial fallout has been massive. Once estimated to be worth nearly $1 billion, his net worth has dropped dramatically as endorsements and investments vanished. In many ways, the damage to his career has already been harsher than any prison sentence. The court of public opinion. Then there's the issue of reputation. Public reaction to the case has been divided. Some fans argue that Diddy has already paid the price, spending a year in one of America's toughest prisons and losing nearly everything he built. Others believe his fame shielded him from even worse consequences and that prosecutors were right to push for more time. The conversations on social media show just how polarizing this case has become. For some, Diddy's legacy in hip-hop makes it hard to separate the man from the music. For others, the stories told during the trial confirm suspicions that his power came with a dark side. A judge's impossible decision. When sentencing day arrives on October 3rd, the judge won't just be deciding how long Diddy stays behind bars. They'll also be deciding what message the justice system sends about celebrity accountability. Should a 14-month sentence be enough, considering the rehabilitation Diddy claims? Or should prosecutors get their way, ensuring he serves several more years as a warning to others? The decision could reshape how future cases involving powerful entertainers are handled. Beyond the sentence, what comes next? Even if Diddy walks free soon, his challenges won't end. Civil lawsuits are still looming. His music career, once dominant, may never recover, and public trust is fragile. Some doors will never reopen. But if he does serve years in prison, it could erase any chance of a comeback altogether. Either way, October 3rd will be remembered as the day his future was sealed. Closing reflection. For decades, Sean "Diddy" Combs lived a life larger than anyone else in hip-hop. But today, he's reduced to waiting in a cell, hoping a judge sees the man he claims to have become rather than the man prosecutors described. The choice between 14 months and 63 months might not sound like much on paper, but for Diddy, it's the difference between walking free soon or disappearing from the spotlight for years. So the question remains, will the judge believe in his redemption, or will justice demand more time behind bars?